Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a story that has stirred conversation all across Europe. Denmark recently took action on an issue that many countries have been debating quietly, and the moment Denmark moved forward, Europe began asking why, what the intentions were, and what this decision means for the future of the region. This situation has sparked intense discussions, not because Denmark is the largest country in Europe, but because it often serves as a testing ground for policies that other nations later consider, adopt, or oppose. In this video, we're going to explore the reasoning behind Denmark's move, the reactions from across Europe, and what this tells us about the direction Europe might be heading in. Denmark has a long history of making decisions earlier than others in the region. Sometimes those decisions are bold, sometimes controversial, and often they push debates that other governments would rather avoid. What makes this moment particularly interesting is how the rest of Europe responded. Countries that usually remain silent or neutral suddenly came forward with questions, commentary, and in some cases, criticism. This tells us that Denmark's recent action struck a nerve, and figuring out why has become essential to understanding the broader European landscape. To understand the deeper meaning of Denmark's step, we need to look at the type of society Denmark has shaped over the years. Denmark consistently ranks high in stability, governance, education, and social welfare. These strengths give Danish leaders the confidence to experiment with strategies that other countries might hesitate to try. The Danish approach is often built on the idea that long-term benefits outweigh short-term backlash, and because of that mindset, Denmark has not been afraid of becoming the first mover on sensitive issues. When a country known for stability makes a bold move, the reaction is quick and widespread. Across Europe, governments and analysts began asking why Denmark felt the need to act now. Why choose this moment? Why take a step that could potentially create tension with neighboring states? One explanation lies in the broader changes Europe has been experiencing. Economic shifts, population pressures, technological disruptions, and geopolitical tensions have all contributed to a sense that Europe is entering a new era. Countries that once relied on slow, consensus-driven decision-making are now realizing that waiting too long can create bigger problems. Denmark's decision reflects a growing belief that early action today might prevent larger challenges tomorrow. Many European leaders questioned whether Denmark was acting alone or signaling a direction others might eventually follow. Denmark has historically influenced policy debates, especially in areas like regulation, security, migration, climate, and digital governance. Even when other countries initially criticized Denmark's choices, years later some of those same countries adopt similar measures. This pattern makes Denmark's latest move more than a domestic decision. It becomes a potential preview of Europe's next chapter, and that is one reason so many eyes are watching closely. As the reaction spread, commentators pointed out that Denmark often values practicality over political sensitivity. Instead of waiting for prolonged debates, Danish authorities tend to implement policies based on data, projections, and internal assessments. This practical approach is admired by some and questioned by others. Supporters argue that decisive action leads to clarity and stability. Critics suggest that moving too quickly can isolate a country from broader regional cooperation. This ongoing debate explains why Denmark's recent action created immediate curiosity across Europe. Europe is a region known for collaboration, agreements, and shared frameworks. When one country breaks from the expected path, others want to know the logic behind it. For many European governments, Denmark's decision was puzzling because it appeared to challenge norms that have been in place for years. Whether those norms needed to be challenged or not is part of the conversation. Some saw Denmark's action as a wake-up call, while others viewed it as an unnecessary disruption. Regardless of perspective, the move forced countries to reconsider their own strategies. A key reason for Europe's intense response is the speed at which Denmark acted. In recent years, Political decisions across the continent have become slower due to rising polarization, economic pressures, and public uncertainty. Denmark's willingness to move rapidly sent a message that decisive governance is still possible. That message resonated with some nations and unsettled others. Speed in policy changes can inspire confidence or trigger fear, depending on how prepared others feel to respond. Denmark's approach also raised questions about national priorities. While each country in Europe faces its own challenges, many share similar issues. Denmark's decision may have highlighted weaknesses in other countries' systems, making governments uncomfortable about their own readiness to handle future crises. When one nation acts confidently on a shared problem, others naturally ask themselves whether they should be doing more. This self-reflection contributed to the wave of questions directed at Denmark. Across European media, discussions emerged about whether Denmark was anticipating a challenge that others had not yet fully acknowledged. Some commentators suggested that Denmark might have access to internal assessments showing long-term risks. Others argued that Danish leaders simply wanted to maintain their reputation for forward-thinking policy. Regardless of the exact motivation, the perception that Denmark was acting proactively sparked curiosity among European audiences. This situation quickly expanded from a national decision to a continental debate. Analysts began exploring whether Denmark's move would create ripple effects. Would other countries begin revisiting their own policies? Would European institutions weigh in? Would Denmark face consequences, or would it receive support? These questions shaped conversations from government offices to public forums. The entire incident demonstrated how interconnected European politics has become, and how one country's decision can affect the entire region. Another important angle in this story is the public reaction within Denmark. Citizens of Denmark are accustomed to bold decisions, but even within the country, debates emerged. Some people welcomed the move as responsible and forward-looking, while others worried about potential repercussions at the European level. The internal divide mirrored the broader European debate, showing that even within Denmark, the decision was complex and multi-layered. Meanwhile, European citizens had their own interpretations. In countries where trust in government is low, Denmark's action was seen as courageous. In countries where stability is valued above rapid change, the move seemed risky. These differences in public perception highlight the diversity of opinions within Europe and explain why Denmark's decision could not go unnoticed. One major theme that emerged from this situation is leadership. Europe has been searching for strong, clear leadership on major issues. Some people believe that Denmark showed exactly that, setting an example even if others disagreed with the method. The idea that leadership sometimes requires taking unpopular actions added depth to the debate. Whether the decision was right or wrong, Denmark demonstrated that leadership involves making tough choices rather than waiting for perfect conditions. Another dimension of the conversation involves long-term planning. Many European countries struggle to balance immediate needs with future risks. Denmark's action was interpreted by some analysts as a long-term investment. Instead of focusing on short-term political comfort, the move seemed designed to safeguard future generations. This perspective resonated especially with younger Europeans who are growing increasingly concerned about how current decisions will shape their future. The economic aspect also played a significant role in the discussions. Europe's economy is shifting, and countries are trying to adapt in different ways. Denmark's action raised questions about economic preparedness, resource allocation, and strategic planning. Some feared that moving too quickly could create instability, while others argued that delaying action could lead to greater economic risks. The debate expanded beyond Denmark's borders because the economic implications of such decisions are rarely isolated. Another factor that intensified the discussion was Europe's growing awareness of global competition. As other regions of the world innovate rapidly, Europe has been under pressure to adapt. Denmark's step was seen by some observers as a move to keep pace with global trends. This interpretation added urgency to the conversation and made other countries reconsider whether they were doing enough to stay competitive internationally. As experts analyzed the situation further, cultural differences within Europe became part of the discourse. Denmark's political culture prioritizes transparency, efficiency, and problem solving. Other countries have different traditions shaped by their own histories. These contrasts make certain policies acceptable in Denmark, but controversial elsewhere. Europe's reaction revealed how deeply cultural norms influence political expectations, and how a single policy can expose those differences. In discussions across television studios, digital platforms, and academic circles, one central question kept appearing. Was Denmark's decision the beginning of a broader shift in Europe? Some believed the move could inspire others to act. Others warned that it might increase political tension across the region. Regardless of opinion, everyone agreed on one thing. Denmark's decision forced Europe to confront questions it had been postponing for years. Internationally, Denmark's action also caught attention outside Europe. Analysts from other regions saw it as an example of a smaller country influencing a much larger political environment. This reinforced the idea that size does not determine influence, strategy does. Denmark reminded the world that clarity of purpose can shape global conversations, especially during times of uncertainty. As more reactions surfaced, analysts began exploring how this moment might shape future European cooperation. Would Denmark's boldness be viewed as helpful, disruptive, or visionary? Would European institutions adapt to this new level of decisiveness, or would they push back? These questions remain part of an evolving conversation. Throughout all of this, the most interesting aspect is how one country's choice became a mirror for the entire region. Denmark's decision revealed Europe's concerns, hopes, fears, and unresolved debates. It brought attention to issues that many governments had been reluctant to address directly. For that reason, Europe's reaction was not just about Denmark, it was about itself. As the dialogue continues, one thing is clear. Denmark has once again positioned itself as a catalyst for broader European reflection. Whether others agree or disagree with the decision, they cannot ignore it. The conversations sparked by this moment will continue to influence EU discussions, national strategies, and public opinion for months or even years to come. In many ways, Denmark's decision serves as a starting point for deeper questions. What direction should Europe take in facing emerging challenges? How can countries balance national priorities with regional cooperation? When is bold action necessary, and when should caution guide decisions? These questions are bigger than Denmark, but Denmark's move brought them into focus. As we look ahead, Europe will continue evaluating the consequences and potential benefits of Denmark's action. Other countries may follow with similar steps, while some might resist. The outcome is not predetermined, and that uncertainty is part of what makes this moment so significant. Europe is at a crossroads, and decisions like Denmark's can influence the path forward. Denmark's move reminds us that governance is not just about maintaining stability, but also about adapting to new realities. Countries that recognize shifts early often shape the future. Those that hesitate may find themselves reacting to changes instead of controlling them. Denmark chose to act early, and that is why Europe is paying such close attention. The conversations that followed exposed the complexity of today's Europe. They showed how interconnected the region is, how quickly political balance can shift, and how one decision can start a continent-wide debate. Denmark did not just take action. It set off a chain reaction of questions, analyses, and reflections. Even though the journey ahead is uncertain, one thing is certain: Europe will remember this moment. Denmark's action has become a reference point for future decisions, discussions, and negotiations. The region is entering a new era of challenges, and moments like this help define how countries respond. Thank you for watching, and if you found this explanation helpful, make sure to stay tuned for more deep dive discussions like this. There's a lot more happening across Europe and the world, and we'll keep breaking it down for you in clear, thoughtful detail. Stay connected and see you in the next one.